All right, guys. So let me just go over this worldview assignment. So in class, we try to have a conversation and a discussion about worldview, right? So we watched that video. We did the polls about maskers and anti-maskers. And here's the thing. A lot of the reasons these people gave for not wearing a mask included like scientific reasons, or they said it was an overreach or too much government control, things like that. And the fact is, even if you confronted them with articles and magazines and videos disproving their point, they're probably not going to change their mind, right? And a lot of that has to do with this idea of worldview. All right, so let's quickly kind of discuss what that means, right? So first of all, what is a worldview? It's the way we see the world, duh, but like it's more specific. It's the way we see the world and then interact with the world. So we can look at an event, we can look at certain people, and we can look at history, and our worldview changes everything about that. So, you can be looking at just to give you an example of modern stuff, like look at all the Black Lives Matter protests we've seen, right? To some, it is this awe-inspiring moment of, unity in which the country seems to finally be rallying around and trying to make genuine change to improve the lives of so many Americans. Others will look at it and they will go, this is too radical, they're demanding too much, I'm not comfortable with this. And again, why do they think that way? It's their worldview, all right? And so the reason this is super important, especially in a civics class, is that worldview shapes literally everything we're going to be talking about. Your view on how government should behave, what government can do. Yeah, we'll talk about modern issues, right? The mask thing was clearly one-sided. Like we're talking, you saw the numbers, like 95% believe in masks and that COVID's serious. But other issues are a lot more divided. And here's the thing. We as citizens, as we talked about in responsibilities, have to respect diversity. We can't simply dismiss it and go, well, that person's dumb. Right, that's not productive, right? You're better off trying to understand why they think that way, all right? And that way you can engage in an honest conversation. So before you can really do that, you need to understand what your worldview is. Hopefully that makes sense. So your assignment is in 3 parts, and I'm just going to run through those 3 parts really quickly. First, there's a series of 7 questions. Now, this isn't like the this or that. These are a little bit more complicated, and we'll look at some to help you understand. Your responses should be at least 3 sentences long. Now, I'm looking for academically written 3 sentences. Again, the this or that was casual and light. I'm looking for you to really dive into this stuff. All right? And so don't just give me blah answers or generic answers. Really think about it, because this will help you to understand why you think the way you think and why someone might disagree with you. Make sense? All right, when you've done all that, now that you have an idea of your worldview, just make a simple visual representation, like a collage, a series of pictures that explain or that represent your worldview and give a little bit of an explanation. And then lastly, at the end, there are reflection questions. All right? These are designed to kind of, after you've done all this, think back upon what you've learned about yourself. And again, all of this is that slideshow I told you to download at the beginning of class. You will turn in the slideshow like you turned in the last one by posting it into Canvas, and if you don't post it there, then I'm not going to grade it. All right, but let's look at some of these questions so that you can begin to get a sense of what I'm asking you to do. All right, so where do you consider, quote, home? You can give me a very specific answer, right? So for me, listen, I'm not from here originally. Some of you are based on your get to know you. Some of you are from other places, and you moved here. All right, so do I consider this my home? Sure, yeah, I guess. But it doesn't mean that this is the place that shaped who I am. So in addition to telling me where home is, which obviously we kind of got an idea of where that is, think about the values or characteristics you associate. All right, because again, that's going to shape things about how you view the world. All right, who do you consider family? Again, loaded question. For some, it's just the immediate family, brothers, sisters, mom, dad, something like that. For others, family is multi-generational. It's extended family, aunts, uncle, cousins. That's all that. For me personally, my family is, here's the thing. I'm an adult. I have a wife and kids, but I also have parents and brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews. So when I say family, I tend to think of my wife and my children, and less so much of like my brother and my sister and who they're married to, right? That makes a certain amount of sense, and it changes. Why do I think that way? It's because it's the way I was raised. All right, ethnic, racial, religious, social communities. These are going to be kind of obvious, right? Not only do you want to identify which of these things you might want to talk about, but also realistically speaking, right? You've sort of seen me. I'm a white male. That has shaped my worldview, right? 100%. All right, and so this is the reason some people have a difficult time maybe having conversations about race or ethnicity or religion, because their worldview gets in the way. All right, but again, this is where one of the things that certainly in our country I think does a lot to shape worldviews. All right, key events or things of that nature, right? So it could be a huge event, like a social event like the Charlottesville rally. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can look that up. It could be something kind of controversial like the COVID-19 checks, the lockdowns, DACA. These events really shape our worldview, right? You can look at that event and go, oh my gosh, that's terrible. And then it informs how you view other people or how you view the world, all right? Again, these are kind of loaded questions. The problems you see in your community or your neighborhood, they definitely affect the way you see the world. Like, all right, here's an expression you might not know. It's called Rust Belt. So where I grew up is considered part of the Rust Belt. What that basically means is there was a time in which factories and manufacturing was really popular all across, right? And it made these communities economically stable. They built wealthy people, built middle class. Everything was really nice, but then the factories left. And so when they left, it left behind communities that lost jobs. So for me growing up, I grew up in that kind of community. So I kind of got used to seeing falling apart homes. I got used to seeing poverty. I got used to seeing kind of like this view of a community that is struggling to figure itself out. And there's no doubt that that all shaped my view on what government should do, how the economy should work, how we should treat one another, the importance of being in the community. All that was shaped by where I grew up. It makes it in the problems that I saw. All right, so again, privilege, oppression, this one's a little more complicated. All right, again, we gave you some definitions here to kind of help you through this. All right, so you do all the questions. All right, cool, awesome. This visual representation, so you can use pictures, symbols, quotes, short phrases. The idea is that we should see 8 things that represent your worldview, right? You could build this into the slideshow. You should be able to, because you can readjust the size of pictures and everything like that, right? All right. Here's just some examples the kids did. Were not digital ones, but actual physical ones, just to give you an idea. All right. And then there's reflection questions. All right. So, what do you think was the biggest influences? All right. Why do you think they influence you? Again, 8 sentences minimum. This is a little bit of writing. All right. And again, we shouldn't need to use I statements here. You can discuss these things like I can without saying I. The 2 largest influence on my worldview were or are. All right. Don't say I think or I believe. Again, like I know it's heavily opinionated, but try to retrain your brain to get away from I. All right. So that's pretty much the assignment, guys. When you're done, upload it to Canvas so that I can see it, so I can make comments back to you. You have until Thursday at midnight. If you have questions, please let me know. But I think that's pretty straightforward. I'll see you later.